shit, did you hear that? I honestly didn't know we were going to have a thunderstorm. Well, fuck it, I'm going to keep going. Hey, what's up, Creepers and Geekers? Chris the Atari Creep. How's everyone doing today? You know, in my little hiatus from the internet, of course I wasn't away completely. I was still observing from afar. And there were a group of videos that I seen online of this very subject that I said, you know, that's pretty interesting. Now, maybe I'm overthinking it, but to me, it got me in the mindset of the individual and the type of games they like to play, where they stood as far as their collection is concerned, and their desires in general. And it just, to me, it felt like I got to know them a little bit better. So I said, you know what, that'd be a fun idea. So I grabbed a piece of paper and I jotted down 10 games that just came to mind. There's no urgency to these. There's really no true order in which they're just ones that came to mind as they came to mind. And so yeah, with that, here's 10 games that are on the Creep's wish list, if you will. Number 10 is A Nightmare on Elm Street for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Such an interesting platformer that you can honestly tell when you're playing it. You know, aside from the Nintendo Nerds video on it, you could tell it was originally supposed to be something else that just got the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise slapped on it. Some people hate it, some people like it. I think it's a pretty fun platform. It's got some interesting elements to it. It doesn't break any fucking molds or anything, but it really is a fun game, and I enjoy playing it on emulation and such. But it's one of those games that I've never owned. I've always wanted to own so I could put it next to my Friday the 13th cartridge, which I've owned quite a bit of copies of those. And yeah, just be able to enjoy it whenever I can. So yeah, number 10, Nightmare on Elm Street for the NES. Number 9 is Ninja Golf for the Atari 7800. Now, whenever I mention Ninja Golf in a list, I always just say Ninja Golf because Ninja Golf. But in all honesty, in a time where games were basically being rehashed and mashed into each other, a good example, Astro Blast, as a mashup of, say, Space Invaders and Asteroids, whoever came up with Ninja Golf, I didn't research any developers or any of that crap, really thought outside the box. It's exactly what you think it is. You're a ninja playing golf, and in between strokes and getting to your ball, you have to fight other ninjas. And you do so many holes and repeat, rinse, and all that good stuff. It's such an interesting, wacky game that plays very well, in fact. So Ninja Golf, yeah, number 9, easily in my top 10. Number 8 is Blasto for the original PlayStation. Blasto was a game I purchased when it was new. Platformers had kind of run their course at this time, and they had just started to perfect the 3D aspect of platforming. And that was just one of those games that were, to me anyway, it was very approachable. You could play it. It was difficult, but Blasto had this personality that really hadn't been seen quite yet. Now we have characters that are, you know, snippy and they talk shit and they swear and all that crap, but it was fairly new at the time, and it's not an expensive game, nor is it a hard game to find. It's just very rare that I see one out in the wild. And when I do, they're usually disc only. When it comes to PlayStation games, I want the jewel case with the cover that's attached to the manual. So I'm a little picky there. Nor is it an expensive game either. But Blasto for the original PlayStation, that's one that's definitely in the top 10. So number 8, Blasto. Number 7 is another game I've never owned. I've played it a number of times, be it at a friend's house. I've rented it for my own Sega Genesis. I'm a big fan of Castlevania, and I never owned the Sega Genesis Bloodlines. You would think at this point I would have. I just can't ever seem to get my hands on a copy or find one that's reasonably priced. Sega Genesis being my favorite console of all time, and Castlevania being one of my favorite franchises of all time, you would think it would have been a no-brainer by now that the Creep had finally got his grubby little fingers on a copy. But I haven't. But I've played it plenty of times. I've gone through the game, and it really is a really fun, nice sidestep to the Castlevania series. So yeah, number 7, Bloodlines. Number 6 is Wild Guns for the Super Nintendo. Back in my early days of doing these videos, if you recall, one of my first videos were we used to do a retro game night at this game store that had a lounge in the back, a gaming lounge, in Tempe, Arizona. And somebody had brought that game with their Super Nintendo and plugged it to one of the TVs. I'd never heard of it, honestly, at the time. To this day, I'm still not anywhere close to knowledgeable on the Super Nintendo library. I know the basics, but this was such an interesting game. I love Contra-style games, and I love Westerns, and I just thought that was a no-brainer. And I played it for probably about an hour. I felt bad because people were lined up behind me waiting to get their hands on the Super Nintendo. But I fell in love with that game, and then I found out, of course, it's one of the expensive ones. So I've never really truly sought it out, but I look, and if I see one eventually that's reasonably priced, of course I'm going to pick it up. So number 6, Wild Guns, Super Nintendo. Number 5 is a game that I've had plenty of opportunity to own, but for one reason or another, just passed on it. And every time I do that, I kick myself in the ass, and that is Robocop versus Terminator for the Sega Genesis. Not the Super Nintendo version. That is a shitty version of it. I don't care who you are. It doesn't play as well. The Genesis version is just amazing. 2 of my favorite movie franchises of all time. Mashing up together. I know it's based off of a comic book. I would love to see that movie fucking made. I mean, I would have a total nerdgasm. I would have the rock hardest hat on the whole time watching. As fucking horrible as the movie is, it will end up being. Fuck, I'd love to see that in movie form. But back to the game itself, never owned it. I played it plenty of times, both emulation, and of course I rented it a lot when I was a kid. And it was just one of those things where I just never got my hands on it. So if I can get a copy of it for the Sega Genesis, that would probably make my year, to be quite honest with you. So number 5, Robocop versus the Terminator for the Sega Genesis. Number 4 is a Famicom game. I think I have a couple on this list. Yes, I do. Holy Diver. I was a metalhead growing up. Not so much more hair band stuff. I was more of a thrash metal kind of guy. But I did like Dio. I like hard platformers. I like creepy settings. Holy Diver mashes a heavy metal aspect with kind of a Hammer horror kind of platforming, and I hear it's hot as fucking balls. I've never actually played the game, not in emulation. I've never owned the cartridge, but I would like to seek that one out eventually. Just if anything, just to have it in the collection. I don't do that a lot. I tend to collect things I'm going to play eventually. But it's such an interesting title that probably should never have been, but it does exist, and it's an oddity in our hobby. So just for that alone, number 4 easily, Famicom Holy Diver. Number 3, I'll just call it Noddy Ruffini, which is the Famicom cutesy version of Splatterhouse. Such a fun game. I have played it. A few of my friends have an NES repro card, or whatever you want to call it, hack. I've played it a number of times. Such a fun game. I'd like to get the original one, but again, another one, because one, it's overseas and it never came here, and it is a great game. It's popular. It tends to be a little more pricier than one I tend to either want to pay and or I could afford. But it's such a great game. Again, it's got a little creepy atmosphere, but it's cute too. But I mean, come on, a really cutie cartoon version of Splatterhouse, you can't go wrong there. So yeah, number 3, Noddy Ruffini, Wako Paku, whatever the fuck it's called, for the Nintendo Famicom. Number 2, Midnight Mutants for the 7800. I am a huge, enormous Munsters fan. When I heard this game existed many years ago, I knew in my heart that it was going to be a harder one to get and a little pricier than, again, what I can either afford or want to pay for. But I've been watching video play of it. I've played it on my emulator. It's such a fun game. I mean, come on, it's Grandpa Munster. How can you go wrong with a platformer-style adventure game using Grandpa Munster? I mean, there's not really much more I can really say about it. Number 2, Midnight Mutants. You gotta fucking play that game. It's pretty cool. And number 1, again, in no specific order or urgency, just happens to be the last one I wrote down, Zilium for the Sega Master System. Never owned a Master System when I was growing up. My buddy Gerald did. And he had a big stack of games, and Zilium was one of them. And again, another game that I think has kind of a 50-50 following. Some people really like it, other people, whatever. I really liked it, going to the computer terminals and doing all kinds of this, that, and the other, platforming, adventure, mystery, whatever you want to call it. But Zilium for the Master System was one of those games that really do stand out to me. And for number of years I couldn't remember what it was called until I had a copy in my hand that the guy decided not to sell to me. Fucking last minute. Well, there you have it. Just 10 random games I'd like to add to my collection, a wish list if you will. Go ahead and leave down in the comments below. What games have you been trying to get your hands on that you really want to get but you haven't been able to? No Mooshes, no Little Samsons, just common everyday games that for one reason or another you really want to play but can't get your hands on. Guys, can't say it enough. Thank you as always so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys, especially through these turmoil times. And I say that in joke as far as me taking a break from the internet and all that good jazz. I do have plenty of content coming up. I got about 5 pages of outlines for videos I would like to do here in the very near future, all the way up until, say, Halloween. I got a Halloween episode I am working on right now. I'm actually scouting out locations. Get the fuck out of here. Production value? No way. But yeah, I'm doing it for you, and plus it's fun to do. So guys, go ahead and leave feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. All feedback to me is positive. Until next time, take care, and bye-bye. Hey, what's up, folks? The Creep here. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more. You can follow The Creep on social media, and feel free to reach out at any time here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Creep would love to hear from you. And as always, thank you, take care, and bye-bye.